What up, everybody? InstructaBeats back again here with another angle lesson. Today we're going to be talking about how to use a protractor, right? So let's unveil what our objective is today. Our objective today you will learn how to measure angles using a protractor, right? Pretty straightforward. Let's get to meet our new friend, the protractor. Okay, so here's a protractor right here. Now, sometimes there are full protractors, be like a full circle. Most people don't use that, right? This is just kind of a half one right here. So before I even talk about it, let's write down 3 things you notice about our new friend, the protractor. So hopefully you just paused the video, wrote down a couple different things, right? So first of all, hopefully you notice that there are angles on here, okay? And the outer numbers go from 0 to 180. The inner numbers start at 0 on this side and go from 0 to 180. And that's going to cause a little bit of confusion sometimes. So I wanted to point that out so we can talk about it. Here you see that there is 90, right in the middle. Hopefully you notice that. And then right here, there's kind of a hole in our protractor. That's going to be where we put the vertex of the angle. Okay, so a couple different things you can notice. And then of course you have the tick marks right here. So hopefully you saw that kind of like on our circle that I showed you in the last couple lessons. It's counting by 10, but there are 1 degrees, right? Or 1/360th of the circle kind of as you go. So now that we've noticed some things, we've seen some of the things on the protractor, let's take a look at our steps to use it. So the first thing you want to do when you're measuring an angle, right, is you want to estimate, okay? What type of angle is it? You want to write down, is it an acute angle or an obtuse angle? Okay, now we're not going to be doing reflex angles today. We're going to focus only on acute obtuse. And the reason we want to do that is because that way when you write down your number, you can double check. If you estimate, if you think that it's going to be an acute angle, okay, and you write down 179, then maybe you were using the wrong numbers on the protractor, right? So first of all, what type of angle is it? Step number 2, we're going to put the vertex in that middle hole on the protractor. Step number 3, make sure that one of the rays, line segments or lines, is going through a 0. So I'll show you exactly what I mean by these steps. Let's just make sure they're down in our notes so we can kind of refer to them as we go. Step number 4, make sure the other line is going through the protractor. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by that, but that's a very simple thing that a lot of people kind of make a mistake on. Step number 5, whichever 0 you use that set of numbers. And again, this will make more sense when I kind of show you in our next problem what we're talking about, but we just want to make sure we write these notes down. And then step number 6, read the degrees, right? Read the degrees, write down your answer. All right, so watch what we're talking about. So first of all, we want to estimate what this angle is. So I can see right here, I'm measuring this again because we're not doing reflex angles. So I know that this is going to be an acute angle. And based on my benchmark fractions, I think it's going to be bigger than 45, kind of maybe in between 45 and 90. You know, I'm thinking this might be like around 70 degrees, right? Again, I'm just going to hold the estimate in my head, and I'll show you why in a second. Step number 2, we're going to put the vertex right in that middle hole. Step number 3, make sure one of the lines is going through a 0, right? So we want one of this bottom ray or line to be going through a 0. That way we're starting at 0 and we're counting the space between it, okay? Now the other line has to be going through the protractor. You wouldn't believe how many people try to measure their angles like this. They're like, well, I can't read it. It says 0 degrees. Well, that's because your angle's not even going in or through the protractor. I can't use it at this way, right? So that's why I put that one in there. That's kind of a silly one, but I wanted to make sure we mention it. Now, step number 4, whichever 0 you use those numbers. So for this one, it's going through the inner 0. That means we're only be measuring with this inside set of numbers, okay? If we were going through this 0 right here, we would have been using the outside numbers. And I'm going to show you why that's important, because if you're just following these steps and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to end up with the wrong answer. So again, right here, I'm measuring from here. It goes to zeros. So I see that there are 2 numbers that this passes through. Right here, here's 70, okay? So let's start with that. I know I'm supposed to be using these numbers. Well, if you're rushing, you see it's 70, okay? And then you see it's 2 away from 70. You might say, hey, this is 72 degrees, and that's pretty close to your estimate. You might feel good about that. But if you look at these numbers and this 0, it's going 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It hasn't gotten to 70 yet. So it's 2 away from 70, not 2 past 70. So your answer is going to be 68 degrees, right? Because here would be 60, right? Here would be 70 right here, and it's 2 degrees. And again, 1 degree is very small. It's 2 degrees in front of 70. So it's about it's 68 degrees. So that's why I want to make sure, again, you know what you use the 0. That's why this step says whichever 0 you use those numbers, because that way you can count from that 0 and not write down 72, right? But write down the correct answer. Now, the other reason I show you that I have you do that, and also why we estimate first, is a lot of people, if you're rushing, might say, hey, this is 110, this is 112 degrees. As a matter of fact, if you are a student watching this and not an adult and you're going to take a test, 112 degrees would be an answer on that test, right? Because they know that that is what I call the squirrel answer. The answer that you would pick if you don't know what you're doing or if you're rushing, okay? And so that's why we estimate. We know that it can't be 112 simply because we know that our angle was acute. 112 would be obtuse. So by estimating first, we're eliminating one of the confusing answers that they might try to make us pick, right? So by estimating and then by knowing which 0 you're using, you're going to eliminate 2 mistakes that are pretty easy to make. Let's take a look at one more you try problem. So first of all, I know I'm measuring this angle right here, and I know that this is obtuse, right? So first thing I want to do is I want to estimate. So it's obtuse, looks pretty wide, right? Maybe somewhere like around 165 degrees. Again, watch our previous video lesson if you don't know how to estimate angles. Now this one is kind of to the side, so we want to make sure we follow the same steps, right? Put the vertex, right in the middle of that hole right there. But then we want to make sure one of the lines is going through a 0. Right now, this one isn't even going through the protractor. And then this one's going through 50 or 47 and 133, okay? That's not going to work. So we need to be smart and turn our protractor. All right, now I have my line going through a 0, okay? So, and I see it's going through the inner zeros. So I'm going to use the inner zeros right here. If you have this on your notes in a protractor in front of you, you could use the other 0 and put that 0 through this line right here, and you're going to get the same answer if you do it right, okay? That's why you just use whatever numbers that go with your 0. Then my other line is going through the protractor, so it's going to be easy for me to measure. So let's go ahead and read the degrees. So again, I'm starting at 0, so 0, 10, 20, right, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, right, all the way up to 150, then 160. And now I know that this is past 160, right, because I'm using those numbers in order. And this is kind of hard to see, but it looks like right here would be 160, 161, 162. So I think my answer is 162 degrees. And that is an obtuse angle, so that makes sense. And it's actually really close to my estimate, so that makes sense too, okay? If you were tempted to put, see, because you use the wrong numbers, if you wanted to put like 18 or 20 because you were reading the wrong numbers, that should not make sense to you because you know that it was supposed to be an obtuse angle. And that should kind of clue you in the fact, oh, hey, I did this wrong, right? So my exact answer is 162 degrees. All right, let's go ahead and do a U-try problem. So hopefully you have your protractor in front of you. Okay, if not, you can just watch the video and see how I do it again. And you have this angle down, printed out in your notes. So go ahead and pause the video, use your protractor, follow those steps out on your notes, write down what you think the answer is, and then push play to check your work. So hopefully you just did that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this right here, right in the middle. I'm going to use the outside 0 for this one right here. Okay, and again, because I'm using this 0, I'm going to be using the outside numbers. Now I know that this is an obtuse angle, okay? And I'm estimating, when I kind of looked at it, looked in between 180 and 90. So this may be like somewhere around 135, right? If I had to estimate there. I think I forgot to estimate before I put the protractor on there, but you got it. So we're using outside numbers. Let's count up. So here's 90 and then 100, 110, 120, 130. Now this one, it's kind of hard. So you might have to actually move the protractor down or extend the line out okay? But here's 140, then 141, and it looks like this is exactly 142 degrees. Now again, if you're an adult learning how to use Protractor, awesome. If you're a student watching this, if you're taking a test, one of the answers won't be 143 or 141, right? It's not going to be that close. It might be like 135 degrees. But again, it's kind of hard to see, especially on this computer screen. But to me, it looked exactly at 142 degrees. If I'm 1 degree off when I'm measuring, that's not going to be that big of a deal, okay? Because they're not going to be like an answer choice that's right next to it. All right. So if you put 42 or 38 because you're using the wrong numbers, that shouldn't have made sense to you because you know we're looking for an obtuse angle. Hopefully you got this right. If not, go back and rewatch the video. Watch it again. It's okay to fail as long as you learn from it. We'd love for you to subscribe to our channel, like the video, comment, let us know where you're watching from. Again, thank you so much. We know there's lots of different options online, so we just thank you. Check out InstructaBeats.com for all our merchandise, anything you can buy, free downloads, songs, timers, videos. Again, thank you so much. InstructaBeats out.